Okay. Being 5:30, we'll call to order this meeting of the Fitchburg Board of Public Works for February 5th, 2024, held in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chambers. Tonight we have a full quorum, starting with Don, Bill, Dave, myself, and Kim. Let me zoom down here a little bit. So our first order of business is public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't believe we have any. Am I correct, Scott?
You're correct.
Okay. So at this time, we're agenda item 3A, approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the January 22nd meeting minutes?
Approve.
Okay. Moved by Don. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kim. Questions, additions, changes? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Next, for a report from the department head, Mr. Tim Volker, PE.
Thank you. I'll talk about a couple project updates for the Saline Road Reconstruction Project Phase 1. The traffic signals at Saline Road and East Sherrill Parkway were placed into operation last week, Tuesday, January 30th. The signals at Saline and Lacey intersection remain flashing. A couple issues arose with the pre-signal and the wiring in the cabinet with the railroad. We're trying to troubleshoot those issues and hoping to get that up and running sometime this month. But until that happens, they'll remain in the flashing condition at that intersection. Our 2024 street resurfacing project, we're looking to have that advertised this month. There'll be a public information meeting. I believe it's on Monday, February 26th. And that's going to be at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. And the notices to the residents have gone out for that meeting. And then our 2024 street maintenance project, which is our crack filling and chip seal project, we're looking to have that advertised next month, March 2024. And then following that advertisement will be our 2024 sidewalk replacement project. Looking to also have that advertised in March. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
Board, Bill?
Yeah, I was walking on Richardson Street yesterday, and I saw, I don't know, must have been close to 10 sidewalk squares with a pink X over them. Are those like for the 2024 replacement?
Yes, so staff's already kind of gone out and believe they've looked through approximately 6 miles worth of sidewalk and have evaluated it. So if there is a marking on the panel, that it would be due for replacement for this upcoming project.
Interesting, because there were some that were replaced in that same section of road that I walked.
Yes, so the previous project, there were some, we reached a point where the contractor started construction, removed some panels, and we noticed some additional repair work that needed to be done. So we will be going kind of into some areas that we were in 2023 to kind of repair some stuff that came up after the fact. So instead of incorporating that into the work in 2023, we just carry it over the money and gonna do that in 2024.
Then would the assessments for those, if it's the same property owner, occur all in the same year, or do you not have same property owner issues?
I don't know the details of that. Hopefully the property owner wouldn't get assessed twice, but that potentially could be a scenario maybe where a panel was replaced in 2023 and then another panel adjacent to it would be in 2024. So they would then be assessed two consecutive years.
Any other questions? I had two then. I had an email from several neighbors, from several residents, and they were head back to the storm. And after they said, they asked me to contact the city and have them spread sand on intersections. And I stay out of, Mark runs that department very well, so I assumed he took care of it, but do you know what our philosophy on that would be? If obviously when it gets cold, our salt isn't gonna work and, things were icy. You can elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, in that scenario, Mark does put sand down once the temperature reaches that point where sand is no longer, functional. It's, there's certain areas, and then kind of with this last snowstorm, what happened, it came down so fast, got compacted, temperatures dropped. So, Mark was also bringing out the grader to kind of grade up some of that packed material along with the sand.
Thank you. Like I say, he knows his job, and I don't. I stay out of that. I figure he knows it well. The second was, with our street maintenance. Have you been able to make any headway? We talked about the grouping. Trying to pick areas. Was it too early this year to start making any headway in that? Trying to keep them in an area. I know this is a tough nut to crack, and it's going to take many years, but I'm just curious.
What makes it difficult is the city hasn't historically done that, so we're trying to group the streets more so the neighborhood has some form of maintenance done, whether it's crack fill, chip seal, or reconstruct, depending on the age and condition of the roadway. Ross has done a really good job, and I forgot to mention kind of in my department update on I believe it's Wednesday, February 28th. Ross is going to be giving a presentation on the street resurfacing maintenance that the city is proposing, and that's going to be at the committee of the whole. And he's going to go over his map, and you'll see kind of the different color shades he has for each treatment and how in a neighborhood I think he's done a really good job. There's certain areas we weren't really able to hit every street just because we had to get the street reconstructed down in this corner of the city was more important than kind of keeping that contiguous throughout a neighborhood. But overall, I think he did a really good job. And you'll see that on the map that he pulls up, kind of how the neighborhoods are all getting done with some form of treatment. So,
excellent. I look forward to that.
Yep.
That'd be one of my favorite topics, as you probably guessed. All right. Any other questions?
Will this map also show your marking schedule? What you plan on doing for pavement marking?
The pavement markings we won't be touching, but that is something that we're also looking to map out. Something really neat with the back to the sidewalk replacement that older Jetser had brought up with the spray paints. When they went out and did spray paint that, they created an app through our GIS system. So, any staff member in Public Works, if they notice something, can go into that app, throughout the year and say, hey, this panel needs to be replaced. So, the following year, by the time we start that project, we could already have a big database from what we noticed throughout the year, just, doing our normal public work stuff throughout the city. So we're also looking to do that with striping, kind of create a layer and kind of have that running inventory going.
Any other questions, Tim? Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
Next, we'll move on to our agenda items. First, we have 5 Alpha, Resolution R0824, approving 2024 through 2026 median landscape maintenance contract. Do we have a motion to approve?
I so move we approve resolution number R-08-24.
Moved by Dave. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. As board members know, we in our medians we have some landscaping, and we hire a firm to take care of that. Sometimes they're pulling weeds, sometimes they're cutting a little brush, and it's a three-year contract. And I'll turn it over to Tim here for the rest.
Yes, the park's operating budget includes yearly funding for median maintenance. So bid specifications were put together for a 3-year maintenance contract and placed on Quest CDN, along with an ad that was placed in the Wisconsin State Journal. on let's see, it says June 24th, 2023, which is wrong. I believe it was January 24th, 2023. 2 bids were received and opened with Johnson Snow Removal as the lowest bidder. We'll have to change that in the resolution. And
I think that is correct, Tim. No, sorry.
you guys opened the bids
We
on,
bid it for budget reasons.
oh,
Yeah,
back
we bid
in
it for budget
2023.
reasons. Correct.
Okay, so
we knew
June
what the budget would
24th,
be going forward.
2023, 2 bids were received and open with Johnson Snow Removal as the lowest bidder. And it's a 3-year contract for $204,657.47. And Johnson Snow Removal has been doing this maintenance work for the city the last, I believe, 6 years.
Duran, how many square feet, we increased from the last contract to this one? Do you know approximately?
I can look at that real quick here. We went from 42,970 to 60,717.
Okay.
So part of that includes the fish hatchery medians. So the medians that were reconstructed during the fish hatchery project, that was added to that, and then including the new roundabout at Seminole and Lacey Road.
Okay. Duran, can you just give what are they doing for this maintenance contract? Can you just hit
Yep,
3 or 4 items here?
It includes it includes a spring cleanup. They go through, pick up trash, do any, weeding. Obviously there's not many weeds, but then they also mulch, put an inch of mulch down to refreshen everything up. And then it includes hedge trimming, any bushes that need to be done, sucker pruning. And then for the summer, they weed twice a month, all the medians under contract. So typically the first of the month and then the 15th of the month, they weed. And then I think there's 12 weedings included in that. And then it would be the fall cleanup, which includes cutting all of the landscape material down, grasses, getting it ready for the winter. So that's per year.
Okay.
For the landscape side of it.
Thank you, Duran. I just add, the mulch, the city provides the mulch. We have plentiful mulch, so they're able to get that from the city. Any questions on this for Tim or Duran?
A couple of them. Glancing through it, I went pretty quickly through. Am I not on? Okay. I did go through pretty quickly. I saw a lot of specificity on mowing, how high the grass has to be or cut down. What I didn't see in here, and maybe it's more towards Tim if it's in there, is there a traffic control manual they follow? I didn't see any specificity on the traffic control outside of it. I'm really concerned on some of these high-volume, high-speed roadways that just plopping a sign saying mowing ahead is not going to do it with vehicles.
Jordan, do you know typically what the contractor does for like fish hatch?
So there's nothing for mowing. Landscape side of it, I'd have to look into the thing. I can't think of anything. It's kind of a moving operation. They try to use cones and signs and things, and they've borrowed stuff from me before, to try to do the mulching operations where they use turn lanes. They don't typically try to close a lane of traffic off, but they might use a turn lane. I do know that, and I've provided them, advanced warning signs and things like that in the past.
And Don, I think Scott mentioned at the last meeting that they have a safety action plan that they might submit to you, Duran, or that they are supposed to follow. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that was when we asked that question previously.
I talked to them, about, what their plan is. They can't do things early in the morning or late in the evening during rush hour. I definitely let them know that. I have not had many complaints over the years. I feel they do a good job. I make sure they're wearing vests. I have caught them doing that, so I try to make sure they're wearing vests. And then, yeah. So I don't know that I have anything in the specifications about that. I'd have to look for sure though. Can definitely add something though going forward for sure.
I'm just thinking there's a liability with the Fitchburg. If you don't give them a guidance manual and then something happens out there, then they're like, no one stopped me or told me I didn't do it right. So, and then is there someone out there all the time watching what they're doing, or is this they're doing their own measurements and just submitting those invoices?
Yeah, I check up on them. I make sure that they do the mulching and the weeding. If I see something that needs to be weeded or something, I definitely contact them and have them do that. The mulch is a real thin layer of mulch because we do it yearly just to kind of dress things up. So it's not like I'm making sure they're putting an inch of mulch down. It's a pretty thin layer, and you can definitely tell everything that's mulch because it looks fresh.
Could we ask, Joanne, that, you guys look into it and see if I'm concerned as Don is that, I don't know, a safety manual or I'd like a little more thought put into that. They've been doing the work safely, but I certainly understand, they step off the, someone gets hurt, we know what happens, there's no shortage of lawyers in Fitchburg or Madison, and
Yeah, absolutely. I'll check
could-
into it.
okay, let
I
us-
can do a little research between, I think the next agenda for mowing is shortly, so.
Yeah.
I'll do a little checking and then I can report back.
you check on both of those, yeah, because it's a concern to me as it is to Don, All right. Any other questions on this? Call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 0824 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
One
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry.
It said June 29th on the staff report, and it says June 24th in the resolution, so you should just check and make sure you have the right dates when we get to the, I don't know if it's the 24th or the 29th, but there's two separate dates.
Will do.
Thank you, Kim. All right, next, 5 Bravo, ordinance 2024-0-01, amending Chapter 68 to extend a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Lacey Road. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval of ordinance 2024-0-01.
Moved by Alder Jetser. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kim. As you know, we've reconstructed from Seminole Highway to Fitchburg Road, and basically this is amending our Chapter 68 to change that speed limit from 50 to 35 miles an hour on this section of road. Anything more you want to add on that, Tim?
Just that this will allow for enforcement of the 35 mile per hour speed limit signs that were posted during the reconstruction project.
Okay. Thank you. Bill and I will try not to exceed it when we're going down the hill on our bicycles. How's that? I don't know if I can go that fast. Any other questions on this?
This was always planned to be a 35 mile an hour?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? Call the vote. All in favor of ordinance 2024-0-01 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, ordinance 2024-0-02, amending Chapter 27 to allow a waiver for driveway separation. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve ordinance 2024-002.
Moved by Kim. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Jetser. Tim, why don't you give us the details on this?
Sure. The city's current requirement for driveway separation for non-residential driveways is 50 feet on roads with a speed limit of 35 miles per hour or less. This amount of separation ensures there are no conflicts with vehicles entering and exiting adjacent driveways. However, in some situations, driveways closer than 50 feet do not pose a safety issue. The current waiver process is burdensome to driveway permit applicants, and a more streamlined process would reduce the amount of staff time necessary for the waiver process, giving the city engineer the ability to allow driveways with different configurations than the current ordinance would streamline this process and still allow for an engineering review to ensure safety for roadway users.
Just to be clear, this isn't for a specific driveway, this is for the streamline our process.
Correct. So, the city is seeing some more redevelopment projects, kind of in the northern part of the city. And, it's tough to get that 50-foot separation for that. So this would allow, just a more streamlined process for the city engineer to look at it. Because right now, the process is, if they don't meet that requirement, they got to go to the zoning board of appeals for a variance, where this would at least allow the city engineer to look at it from an engineering standpoint. If it gets denied through that process, they could still then follow the city's same process and go through.
Okay, thank you.
Is this going to be applicable to existing driveways, or, I guess not, because they already went through the process.
Correct.
So it's just for anything new that would be constructed?
Correct. And there are, along Fish Hatchery between Post Road and Greenway Cross, there's driveways that are closer than 50 feet. So that, there are certain instances in the city already that
Yeah, that is
have
median in most cases, so you don't have, people going both directions because they can't get through in a
Right.
lot of cases, which, makes it safer if they're just exiting the driveway and someone else is going in on roads that don't have a median. You'll have to look at it close, but.
Don, anything?
So the current process is they go to zoning, and it's a black and white. If it's less than 50, it's a no, and then it goes to the city, or do they?
Current process is if they don't meet the requirement, they can appeal it by going to the zoning board of appeals with a variance, or to ask for a variance from that 50-foot requirement. And the zoning board of appeals just meets whenever there is a variance that's requested.
And then they come to you anyhow, and you do a speed study and look at the spacing and crash history, or what?
No, the zoning board of appeals would vote whether to, go against what the ordinance states, that 50-foot requirement, or allow the variance, which is less. From what I heard, the zoning board of appeals typically do not approve variances. It's very tough to do.
Bill, anything?
I shouldn't care about this, but I'm curious.
Of course you care.
How do you measure the distance between driveways? Because, you could.
Center line to center line or edge to edge, or
And-
is that
if
your
it's
question?
Yeah, and if it's edge to edge, what about the apron of the driveway that skirts out a little bit?
Right. So, yeah, it could be center line to center line, or at the edge of the apron to the edge of the apron. So.
Dave, anything? No. Okay. Any other questions? We'll call the vote. All in favor of ordinance 2024-0-02 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 5 Delta, Resolution R-0924, approving 2024 through 2026 median mowing contract. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve or resolution number R09-24.
Moved by Kim. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave Wilborn. So again, this is a three-year contract for the mowing. Joanne, again, how many? I can't remember the number. How many square feet is this versus last time, previous?
So we went from 456,172 to 484,340.
So just for people reference, been years since my surveying, but 53,620. What's an acre? Or 50? 6,320?
It's 43,000.
43,000 on its way up.
43, yeah.
Good, I got out of civil engineering.
Yeah.
So it gives you, 10,
43.
You're thinking of metric square feet.
oh, maybe. So to give you, it's 10, over 10 acres is what we're looking at here. That has to be mowed.
Once a week, correct?
It's when needed. At minimum once a week. So during the peak times, they're mowing once a week. During the dry times, they don't mow. So the contractor does actually a really good job at that. They only mow when needed, but they won't mow more than once a week.
Okay. So the contract, it's what the weather is like. If we have a drought year or we have a rainy year, we're going to pay this much for that. We're not paying per mowing, we're paying for, this is a fixed contract to
No, it's
take
per
care
mow.
of it.
It's per mow, I think.
It is,
Yeah.
is it per mow?
Yes.
Oh,
This
okay.
is per mow.
It's per mow.
Okay, all right.
Yep, we budget for 22 mowings. I think in 2022, we mowed 17 times. In 2023, we mowed 15 times.
Okay,
But we've mowed more than 22 also. So, yeah, we budget for 22.
all right. So if we have a year, I'm going to ask this question, Scott should answer this, but have a year where we're less, well, do we, where does the money go that we have, that we have left over? Do we reallocate it somewhere? I'm not really.
Yeah, actually, so this year we bought bike racks this year. I know for some of the leftover money, that's one thing that we purchased with some money. Mhm.
Okay,
We've used it for overages on different things too.
okay. Bill?
These are park funds, not general
These are
fund,
park
right?
funds, yes, these are
Yeah,
park.
okay.
Yep, Parks Department pays for this, yeah. Any other?
I also did a little checking there, and on all that's in there for accidents prevention is let me pull it up here, but it's so there's observance of laws and ordinances, OSHA requirements. It's in your packet. I was going to try to give you the page for that. Page 51, I think. But there's, all work, including site safety equipment, materials, and fabricated items provided under the contract shall apply with provisions of the Occupational Safety and Health Act. So there's a few things, accident prevention. Can definitely put more if you think, though.
Well, can we make sure they have a copy of the laws and ordinances? We state this in here, like, hand this to them or email it to them, so that they can't claim, we didn't know, we don't know what these are. Is that?
Sure, I mean,
is that
they sign
reason?
this.
Is that
This
reasonable?
part of the thing that they sign.
Yeah, so technically, if they bid it, then they sign the contract, they're saying that they are aware of those and what they are,
Okay.
but it doesn't hurt to provide them or to have a discussion with them.
Yeah, I'm anything to mitigate the risk. I'm not trying to make more work for you, Joanne.
Sure, yeah, no problem. I can definitely discuss with Tim on what direction or
Yeah,
what we need
could you
to
do that?
provide
Yeah.
them.
I'll leave that up to you and Scott and Tim, how you want to handle that. Okay. Any other questions?
Just more in general, I guess when we're speccing it, I have nothing wrong with this contract and stuff, but is there an alternative to grass in the future here? So you don't have to even mow it, a low growth vegetation that greens up or something?
We've talked about different things. Medians are pretty tough environment with salt and different things like that. We have a decent amount of native vegetation that went in the median with the new Fish Hatchery Road construction north of PD. I think time will tell if that pans out. It didn't come in great the first year. We actually overseeded it with some native vegetation. The end of 23. So they did a frost seed on that native vegetation. And there's a cost to maintaining that. I actually have a contract with, in 2023, Field and Stream did that work on the native stuff. So they go through and, weeds and, different things that come up with that. So they went through, I'd have to look how many times, a few times in spot sprayed, and we didn't get a lot of flowers and different things showing up yet. So I'm sure there's alternatives, but I think there's a cost to alternatives as well. So, and how well it looks and different things.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm almost certain the Resource Conservation Commission has discussed this in the past, and, the option of like a flowering lawn came up. But I think that, like you said, there's a cost to it, there's a financial cost. So even though it could be a win environmentally, not having to mow that ever, it's going to be more time and effort and money put into weeding it.
I would just, my 2 cents worth, we discussed this in parks too. And a very good point was brought up. They said, no, I really don't want those flowering plants in the meridian. It draws the pollinators in, then they're getting hit by cars. It's not the most choice, I don't know if we're really helping them by doing that. But I echo Alder Jetzer's, that seems nice on the surface, but it ends up costing us more in the long run, I think. Any other questions on this? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R0924 approving median mowing contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have Resolution R1724 accepting subdivision improvements in Phase 2 in the plat of Highland Reserve and Certified Survey Map 16336. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve Resolution R17-24.
Thank you. Moved by Kim. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. I assume this has been accepted or been reviewed and found acceptable by the department?
Correct. We've inspected and conditionally approved the subdivision improvements required for Phase 2 of the plat, and then also the CSM within the plat.
Call approximately how many lots are in this one?
Let's see, there are maybe about 25.
Okay.
Looks like.
All right. Okay. This is the down the Fahey development. Any questions on this?
This plat or other plats I have, there's design green space in here for stormwater retention?
Yes.
Okay. And then this, I think the answer is probably no, we don't. But a lot of I guess they're alleyways, outlots, certain outlots have street names. We don't maintain those, do we? Or in any fashion or form?
The alleyways, no.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one? Bill?
Yeah, Tim, can you just give us a high-level overview of exactly what was approved? I mean, is this like actual physical infrastructure, water, sewer, that kind of thing?
Yes. Water, sewer, stormwater, paths, roadway, curb, gutter, all the infrastructure improvements for the subdivision within Phase 2.
So given the timing of this, the roads must have been completed before
October,
the asphalt
end of
plant closed.
October.
Okay, all right.
And that's the first lift. They'll come in and do the second lift. They have a deadline, I believe, of August 2024 to finish that second lift.
Okay.
Just do the home construction.
So right now, we're below the curb. We're not all the way
Correct.
to, okay. Any other questions on this? And then we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R1724 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 5 Foxtrot, Resolution R1824, releasing a public water main easement in Lot 3 of CSM 13261. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move approval of resolution R 1824.
Moved by Bill, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. Tim, we'll run this down, why we, what prompted us that we didn't need this anymore?
So back in 2012, a public water main easement was recorded on Lot 3 of CSM 13261. The utility planned to install a future public water main within this easement to improve fire flow for the Sub-Zero campus. The water main has since been looped on Sub-Zero Parkway and is no longer needed within this easement. Therefore, we're looking to release the easement on Lot 3 of CSM 13261.
Thank you. Any questions on this?
Does the easement have value to us for future development outside?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Bill or Kim, any questions on this? See, now we'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 1824, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next resolution, R 1524, accepting an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Fitchburg and town of Verona for cost share of design services for Fitch-Verona Road. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move approval of resolution R 1524.
Moved by Bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dave. As you, I think all know, we, part of the redesign of this, we've been negotiating with the town of Verona. Half of the road, the north half belongs to the city of Fitchburg, and the south half belongs to the town of Verona, and we've been working on a cost share agreement on this, so I will let Tim provide us with the details.
So Fitch-Verona Road has experienced frequent flooding and will be redesigned and reconstructed. The city of Fitchburg has entered into a design services agreement with a design consultant for the reconstruction of the road. Fitch-Verona is a boundary road with the town of Verona, and costs should be shared between us, the city of Fitchburg, and the town. So we're looking to accept the intergovernmental agreement between the city of Fitchburg and the town of Verona for cost share of the design services for Fitch-Verona Road. So this is just for the design. Construction will work out, we'll either amend this intergovernmental agreement or create a new one for construction. The improvements, so that the value of this is the cost share from the town would be $33,500. And that amount was approved by the city of Fitchburg in the 2023 to 2032 CIP.
What's the total cost of the design?
Currently, I believe the city has budgeted $478,400. So approximately, I believe it's 7%.
Yeah.
Is
So
what
why is it so low? Is that the split of the land, or does the boundary go all the way down Fitch-Verona Road? It
I
seems like
believe the boundary breaks at the center line. So east of the center line is city of Fitchburg. West is town of Verona. I don't have the history on how that 7% was derived. Like I mentioned, it was completed as part of the 2023 CIP by previous staff, and we tried looking through the files and emails and couldn't find anything on how 7% versus 50.
I will, so it's 7% versus 93%. I'll just note that if you multiply Fitchburg's population by 3, you get roughly 100,000. If you multiply the town of Verona's population by 3, you get roughly 7,000. I'm thinking it's probably based on population.
Okay. I would have preferred by road ownership. Maybe we can put a toll on there.
or maybe even a compromise between the two. I mean, 7 seems really low compared to 93, but.
Now, granted, we're driving the need, but the road, has been in bad shape. They're getting quite a deal, I would say.
So Tim, was this same split negotiated when you did the capital improvement plan for the construction as well as for the design, or is that still open to consideration?
That's still open. I don't foresee a 50-50 split for construction. It's, going to be pretty low again. But that's still to be determined and worked through. The city did receive a grant. I believe the grant was about $2 million for this project. It was an LRIP grant. And right now, construction, I believe, is around $6 million. And then with the $2 million grant, it would be a $4 million cost, split between the city and the town is kind of what we're right now working with ballpark.
I think you would probably agree, the, majority of traffic on there is Fitchburg versus, the town, it's probably a 93-7 split. There just aren't that many people, but, they own it. We're kind of driving the need for it with the.
But isn't the town going to be absorbed by the city of Verona? Isn't there some plan for that?
I do not know that,
Okay,
Cam.
maybe
I don't know if Tim
I'm
has.
thinking Middleton,
I've
town of
never heard-
Middleton and city of Middleton or something.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Okay. And must be a different town and city.
I'm kind of in the same line of thinking where folks are at. There's always growth, there's always development, and just because the bigger community has most of the traffic on there, it's the ownership that drives it. And if you can't afford the road, then as a community, you have to decide if there's another community that will do it for you. And of course, that means changing what you do. I would really, before the construction cost is finally negotiated, I'd find out the road aids and how much they got on road aids. It may be a lot more than the $33,000 that you negotiated for just the design part of it. So they may be walking away with money if they got more road aids than what we're negotiating.
And I know with the discussions I've had with their director of public works is, if they were to have reconstructed this road, they wouldn't have put in curb and gutter and the stormwater. They just would have did a rural section. So the city of Fitchburg kind of drove that urban section through there. Kind of hence another reason that the proportion's a little more swayed in the city's direction because of that.
But they still, like Don mentioned there, they do get road aids is all
Correct.
based on miles, not anything to do with population. Or traffic, for that matter.
Yeah, I think when you get to the construction, you might be able to negotiate their road aids into the discussion.
Yeah, we could definitely have that conversation once we discuss the construction costs with them.
All right. Any other questions on this? All right. Then, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 1524, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have resolution R 2024, approving schematic design and preliminary budget for police services facility. Ned, are you here to speak on this? Paul is, okay. All right. Paul Woodard is, okay.
Sure, you want to go ahead? You ready?
We're ready, Paul.
So,
We need a motion.
This guy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I need a motion to approve.
I so move we approve resolution R-20-24.
Moved by Wilborn, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. Had to cart ahead of the horse, as usual. Okay, Paul.
all right, sure. So this resolution is similar to what was approved by the Board of Public Works back in December of last year. The main change is now we do have a better handle on the cost estimate, which we didn't have when I went to the Board of Public Works previously. As referred out by the mayor, it is a cost of $46 million and approximately 74,000 square feet facility. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as what the board saw back in December. There are some options that are available in the resolution as well. I suspect there'll be sniffing discussion at council level next week, but I'd like to hear what the board would have to say on it.
You go over the options, Paul?
Sure, pull those up. So the first option would be to include the live fire capability, and that would put the project cost at $49.2 million. And the other option would be to delete the live fire and the training scenario bay as well, and that would reduce the cost down to $44 million. So what the resolution includes is $46 million, which includes the scenario bay, but no live fire. And my thinking on that is that either if we had favorable bids that could be added later as an alternate bid item, or if the police department is successful in obtaining grants, that could also pay for that live fire capability.
All right, so I'm not gonna lead this, or I'm gonna kind of sit and listen here what board members think before I weigh in.
I think we had a pretty extensive discussion on this in December, and it doesn't seem like the cost have changed that much since then. Is that correct, Paul?
That's correct.
Holy shit.
Paul, did you reduce the contingency? I think we had a pretty high contingency on there until you knew what the estimate was. Did we reduce that?
No, we're still at, I believe it's 15% for contingency, and we'll continue to further refine the estimate. And so as we go to the next phase of the project, the design development, we'll do another estimate. At that point, we'll look at reducing the contingencies further. We feel at this point during schematic design, it's prudent to keep that contingency at that level because there's still a lot of unknowns as we go through the design development stage of the project.
So basically, option A has the training scenario bay and the live fire capability, and then option B just excludes both of them. So is it the two of them together?
Well, no, what the resolution has is at 46 million includes the scenario bay without the live fire. And that's what the resolution is. We provided the options as, if there's been significant discussion at the council level, whether to include or not include the scenario training
I understand
bay.
the training scenario bay. I don't really understand what is a live fire capability. I don't know what that is.
So basically that turns the scenario training bay into an area that can be used for training for live fire for guns.
It basically adds the ballistic capabilities, the protection, so we could fire our live weapons, duty weapons for training purposes in there.
So training has no live weapons, the training facility itself, is that correct?
So the main resolution there, the 46 million amount, is essentially the shell of that space. And then option A would then allow us to actually outfit that with the capability of firing a live weapon. And then the thought process
So would that involve?
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. So what that involves being able to capable for live firing ranges, there's steel traps have to be put in there, and there's extensive HVAC equipment has to be put in there to make it usable for being able to shoot pistols. And
Jeez.
And this resolution is just basically to say we're okay going from schematic design to design development to get further information, further costs, and that type of thing, correct?
that's correct. We'll continue to work on the design development and further refine the cost.
So you did have some additional public meetings between December and now, is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the police department's actually been more involved with that, and Ned can address it. They had a series of meetings the first week of January, and there's 2 additional meetings scheduled for this week as well.
Ned, can you just give us a synopsis from the first meeting? What was the feedback?
I think the meetings got progressively more attended. We had 3 the first week in January, and a lot of conversation was held on the training, the needs for training. A lot of questions related to why we felt training was important to have, and conversation was had on potentially exploring collaborations with other stakeholders that might go in on training. We shared that Madison College, for example, there was some focus on having Madison College perhaps build a facility. They would actually be interested in using our facility. But generally, it wasn't necessarily gauging people's support. It was more a lot of questions related to the project, but overall, a fairly good turnout.
So if we did make this training facility open to other communities, other entities or whatever who could see it valuable, would it be for at cost? I mean, would there be some revenue to the city of Fitchburg for this?
Yes, so we, very rough estimates, we're looking that we would be, depending on usage, and we would anticipate that usage would grow over time, that it would help offset the operating costs specific to the range. Those components there that are unique when you have a trap system and ventilation things and other equipment that would be needed.
So, go ahead, Dave.
I have a question as far as this geothermal heating is. I hope it's a heck of a lot better than what we got right down the street here, because we've had nothing but trouble with that one.
Well, that's not, you're talking the library.
Huh?
You're talking the library?
I'm talking about the heating system they want to put in the building.
Yeah,
But the library doesn't have geothermal.
It has, no more?
No, never did.
No, that's not correct, Dave.
Oh, I'm
Library included geothermal.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm sorry.
And they have had issues, and we've had extensive discussions between the architect, mechanical subconsultant, and city staff that runs those systems. And we believe we've addressed those concerns with the police facility, that the geothermal. We'll actually be putting a boiler system in. That's one thing the library doesn't have. When the temperature gets really cold, the geothermal doesn't work as well. It's obviously better for the cooling of the facility in terms of saving energy, but we will be putting supplemental boilers in to address some of the concerns we've had with the geothermal systems. And we're also looking at a different type of system up in the ceiling to disperse that heat out into the building.
Okay.
So we are aware of the concerns that we've had in geothermal and other city facilities, and city staff's been working closely with the architect and their mechanical subconsultant to address those as we work through the design process. I definitely understand Dave's concerns, and we don't want to replicate those problems in this building or other buildings in the future.
Thanks, Paul.
Bill?
Paul, looking at option A and option B, they both say 74,000 square feet. Is that correct, even though the option B doesn't include the training bay?
That's an error on our part. I apologize for that. So we will, depending what the board does tonight, we'll come back to the council next week with more up-to-date square footage. Is what we should have done on option. Well, it is correct for option A, right? Because it's got the live fire. The only difference in option A versus what's in the resolution is whether or not it has a live fire. What's incorrect is option B, is the square footage would go down. And I don't have that number handy tonight, but we would get that corrected before the council meeting next week. But really, we're trying to get an answer on is the budget amount and whether it include a scenario training bay with or without the live fire.
Don?
No, my line of questions were where Kim was at. I think you got a revenue maker with the live fire. I understand you want to keep it reasonable and at cost, but if you have limited facilities in the area, I think you got a demand then built up with other law enforcement that might be a revenue maker for you.
I would add, just if the revenue isn't substantial, if this costs $3 million, but I think we have a view, we're talking to the chief, that we may, having this would bring a whole nother level of training. We might get regional trainings and things like that are substantial. I'd also like to add, we're hoping to apply, maybe Ned, I'll let you take, but we're hoping to apply for a grant, and this grant is based on intergovernmental cooperation. And so if you talk to Middleton or the ORC, if we can come over and be qualified on our weapons and do our other training there in one day, this is really an advantage to us. If we can't do our weapons, I don't know, not really that much of an advantage to us. And so my concern is if you don't do it, we won't have that support and the amount of grant we might get. There's no guarantee on a grant. I'll just add that. But by not putting it in, we might greatly reduce grant, and it'll cost us more not to put it in. So, Ned, I'll let. your thoughts on that,
The other thing I like to
or Paul,
Well,
either of you.
The grant, yeah, the grant does include not only the live fire capability, but also the cost of the space as well. So if you lose the grant, then you write the grants for more than just a live fire. So it also includes cost of the space as well.
Yeah, but you're also
grants are-
asking, the grant, the people that make the decision, they're looking for a lot of intergovernmental support. And if
Right, exactly. That'd be a detriment to getting the grant if we don't
Yeah.
have that capability. Remember, I probably would not get the grant. If-
Ned, am I
Hey,
right?
yeah.
I don't
would
mean to
just
put
say
you on
that
the spot,
The grant would help offset the space costs related to other training components, including the community multipurpose room and the defense and arrest tactics room as well. And if you go onto the police facility page that we put together with all the information, you can read letters of support. There's quite a bit of support from local law enforcement agencies. We've received indications of support from federal law enforcement agencies, other partners that would be using that space. And again, as Alder Herbst indicated, the real focus here is efficiencies and reducing the time that agencies, whether it's our agency or other agencies, have to spend traveling from point A to point B to conduct training. And so having all those capabilities within one space would become highly efficient and desirable for a lot of law enforcement agencies to use that space.
I'll just add,
And that brings a good point, because the community,
Paul.
because the community center rooms, because the community center is part of that, the community room is part of the grant application, by not including the scenario bay and the possibility of having the live fire capability, the project could end up costing the city more money if we're not eligible for that grant.
I was just saying, just to add for context, I'm very uncomfortable with the amount of money we're spending, I just, rubs me the wrong way, but this is what it costs, this is what it costs, and I think it'll cost us more not to do it right. I'm hoping myself and my children, will never have to worry about another facility. We'd also add, many people have commented, well, this is, for the number of people, we're paying way more, they're looking at facilities that were built pre-COVID, and we're also, this facility is sized for the department 20 years from now, Ned. So, we are forward looking, if God forbid we ever outgrew this, then, it'd probably be a precinct to us, but.
So what's the main, or couple reasons why it went from 35 million to 46 million?
Good question, yeah.
Maybe more so for the general public listening to the meeting than anything else. But is there a summary, Paul, is it mostly just inflation? Is it added things that we didn't have before, or?
Well, the 35 million, and Ned can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that number dates back to 2019, which is well before COVID. So we've had 5 years of inflation, and the square footage of the building is about the same as what we're looking at. Our earlier CIP is around the 78,000 square foot amount. So I think it's primarily just due to inflation. It's been significant since that original estimate was put together, and it should have been updated as the CIP was updated every year.
Ned, did we miss like furnishings, and it seemed like we had discussion.
Yeah, the original study that was done to prepare some of those figures, there was FF&E, I don't believe was fully accounted for in there, and sustainability, the $2.5 million allowance for sustainability was not included in that original number as well. So there were some adjustments in those, and then obviously inflation accounts for a good deal of that change.
Any other questions? Then I'm gonna make a motion. A motion that we include option A with our approval. Any discussion on this? I'll go
What are you
ahead.
gonna do?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve option A with the resolution. The 46 million with option A is, I'm making a motion for the board.
Basically that would go to 49.2 million, so the other 3 million adds the live facility,
That is
the live
correct.
fire capability?
Yeah.
Okay. So we vote on your motion first if we agree
First
with
we vote-
option A, and then we vote on the,
Go ahead.
That is
Resolution.
confirmed, yeah, that is my intent. So I'd move including option A in our proposal, so,
I'll second that motion.
okay. All right, discussion.
It doesn't preclude us from picking other options if the cost goes astronomical, does it?
Council will ultimately,
So we're going
Wait,
up to
wait.
the $150 million now, is that what you're trying to say?
that's what I am.
Taxpayers are gonna love this.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like anything that's that
It's hard to believe
much.
that it went from 35 less than a year ago up to 50
No, it wasn't
million.
a year ago, Dave. It was 2019. It might even been before
okay.
that, that it
But
was
anyway,
at 35, yeah.
Is it that the building gonna look like the Taj Mahal too, that we're spending all this money?
I won't say Taj Mahal, we have a nice facility here. I mean, people come in here and say, well, this is a Taj Mahal. I don't,
This is
Paul was here when we designed this, we wanted a nice facility, which it is, and it's functional. We've had to upgrade it. I feel this is the same professional facility. I don't feel like we're, gold plating it by any means, but
So how do we go about paying for this? I mean, is it bonded over so many years? Is it
that's correct.
20 years.
20 years?
And Misty said somewhere in the neighborhood of 3%.
This is,
And it's designed to meet our needs for 20 years, correct?
yeah. So this is I would just add, this kind of Dave on the soapbox. The city has grown, obviously, we're growing 1,000 people a year. And my contention has always been, all right, well, we got additional tax base, we can spend more. But eventually you run into this situation where we don't have any more space for the police, even if you're being very modest. And then it hits, then that's one of the costs of growth that, even if we were managing that very well, you're gonna outgrow your facility. Now, I think we should also keep in mind, by doing this, we free up space in this building, that the other city departments need. So there's a secondary function. Now, it'll cost money to remodel that, but there is an advantage to that. But this will be bonded, and this will have effect on people's tax base. No different than Verona building a new school, or buying land to build a second high school, or these. This is going to affect people's taxes, but I've always been very strong that this is a public service. This is a basic service that we just need to bite the bullet and get it done with. So that's all I'm gonna say. Okay. Any other discussion?
Was there any thought by some of these other law enforcement communities? Because I see where we're going with it. It's more of a training facility outside of the police aspect of it, but any of them willing to contribute towards it? If they're going to utilize a training facility, there's limited amounts of them around here.
I think that it could be a consideration. I think looking at building a standalone training facility would take a lot of extra work. And I think the focus here is building a facility that meets our needs and takes care of us. If a regional training facility were to be built among multiple agencies someplace else or attached to our facility, then we'd be running into a lot of similar issues as far as demand. Demand grows. I was just looking, the Madison Police Training Center was built, I believe, 12, maybe 13 years ago. And now they're booking out 6, 8, 10 months. It's a question that certainly could be a possibility, but I think the focus here is building the space for us to maximize that efficiency for us first and foremost.
Any other questions? Now let's vote on the amendment to include option A. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, please note the vote in the record. Okay. All right, then back to our main motion then, to approve the facility with the 46 million with option A. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right. Bill,
Is
did
that
you?
one or two
Is it one
nays?
or two? Two nays, okay. So it passes 3-2. Okay. All right. Thank you, and at the end of this, we'll be discussing this at the 12th council meeting on the 13th. That's, council will be taking action on making the final decision. Am I correct, Tim and Paul? On the 13th?
I'd be there.
Bill, does that
We're
sound
hoping
right?
that the council will
Okay.
final decision next week.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, it's a tough issue.
And if I could also just add, the two public information meetings remaining are tomorrow night and Thursday night. Tomorrow night is at Doxa Church and Thursday night is at Leopold Elementary School.
Thank you for your time. Ned, Paul, thank you. Okay. All right, so let's move on to 5 Indigo Resolution R 2524, approving amendment for the agreement for engineering reconstruction and maintenance of County Highway AD Fish Hatchery Road in the city of Fitchburg. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Don, second by Bill. All right, Tim, you want to run us through this one?
Yes, the city of Fitchburg and Dane County previously entered into an agreement for engineering, reconstruction, and maintenance of County Highway D and Fish Hatchery Road in the city of Fitchburg, which was fully executed on June 11th, 2019. Dane County is responsible for up to $8 million of the final reconstruction costs for Fish Hatchery Road in the original agreement. Based on the actual final project costs, Dane County's final share of the reconstruction costs is $9,675,000. So it's necessary to amend the original agreement to establish the county's actual final share of the costs. So we're looking for Common Council to approve the amendment to the agreement so that the city can receive reimbursement of the additional $1.675 million from Dane County.
Kim?
Is the county aware of this and have they agreed to this?
Yes.
Okay.
They are aware of it, and they have agreed to it.
Okay. I see no reason not to approve it to get
$1.675 million, yes.
Don, Tim, Dave, anything? No? Okay. All right. All in favor of Resolution R 2524, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Next, we have Resolution R 2824, amending 2023-2024 General Fund and TID 13 budgets, vehicle, building repairs, and Sain Road. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move approval.
Moved by Alder Jetser. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. A lot wound into this, Tim. Can you break it apart for us here a little bit?
Yes, there's one resolution here, however, 4 different budget amendments tied to it, and 3 of those budget amendments are associated with fiscal year 2023, and the 4th is associated with fiscal year 2024. So the first 2023 budget amendment is for Fire Station number 2. During fiscal year 2023, we experienced many expensive repairs that needed to be addressed and exceeded the budget amount. These were unforeseen. However, in the Public Works Maintenance Facility in 2023, we had less repairs than we had anticipated. So we're just looking to reallocate some 2023 funding from the Public Works Maintenance Facility to cover the Fire Station number 2 expenses. And then secondly, the 2023 budget for Public Works equipment maintenance was not sufficient to meet the maintenance needs that we experienced during the year. So we had a couple vehicles break that were quite expensive. One was our excavator broke during 2023, and I believe that repair was around $14,000. And kind of what we're looking to do for this is that the city had some savings. We had converted several street lights from high pressure sodium to LED, which resulted in an energy savings for both 2023 and 2024. So we're looking to absorb the increased public works equipment maintenance by moving some of the energy savings over to the equipment fund. And that's the fund that's both fiscal years. So already in 2024, we had a couple snow plow trucks break. The first one was truck 802. We had a starter and plow that needed to be repaired, and that was $5,500. The second plow, the fan clutch, needed to be repaired, and that was $4,400. So far, which those two repairs alone were approximately $10,000, and that was about 25% of our 2024 budget, and we're only through the month of January, which is 1/12 of the year. So we're looking to move money already this year to kind of cover our anticipated overage that we're going to foresee later this year in that same account. And then lastly, budget amendment number 4 is tied to 2023. This is the Speedway sand and gravel purchase order. So we're looking to charge $150,000 to TID 13. So instead of the money, no additional work was required for this project. All we're looking at doing is reallocating some of the improvements that we anticipated the city paying for are actually TID eligible. So we're looking to have the TID pay for an additional $150,000 worth of improvements. But like I mentioned, it's not additional work. It's just that they were TID eligible.
Questions?
Apparently, we're just moving money around to pay for everything.
Aggressive accounting, yeah.
It's hard to, like, the 3 accounts for public works were the repair and maintenance. It's hard to foresee what breaks during the year. So when we budget, we look at the previous 5 years, kind of take the average and go from there. And you're going to have some buildings that see more repairs. So 2023 Fire Station 2, we saw a lot more repairs than we anticipated. However, you hope at the same time there's other facilities that don't have as many repairs, and we saw that with our public works facility. So, and vehicles, are hard to anticipate what breaks, and obviously with COVID and how hard it is to get parts and increases, that's also contributed to. So obviously we take that into consideration come budget time.
Does the budgets for those maintenance ones, if you don't spend it, does it roll into the next fiscal year?
We can request that. Doesn't mean it will get approved. But obviously if there is a shortage, and that's something we'll look at right now. We're kind of going through carryover money, and I believe in March is when that resolution will come through. So that's something us as a department will take a look at, the maintenance funds where we came in under, if we could carry that over in anticipation of some repairs that we foresee in 2024.
One other question more for the request 2. Do you have usage rates such that I understand the need to replace it, but at some point, if we don't use it that much, sometimes you just rent these things out. Are the usage rate balanced out such that it's worth buying these, or is renting an option?
What specifically are you talking about renting?
Excavator, maybe?
Yeah, you got, that and tractors. You can rent tractors anywhere.
It's something we evaluate, but typically it's about buying's the cheaper alternative in the long run. And the city has a pretty good replacement policy, set up where we, have it budgeted out where when it comes time to replace it, that the funds are already there.
Okay, so we got usage rates that say we use these things a lot, so we
Yes.
need them. Okay.
Did you have something, Bill?
Yeah, you mentioned the street lights, the conversion from the sodium vapor to LED. I'm curious, what sort of savings do we see on that, on like a per street light basis every year?
I don't know that the streetlight basis per year, however, that there was, and let me see if I can find the email with the savings on what we had budgeted and what we were kind of under.
As I recall, we got a grant or some money to change those high-pressure sodiums to LEDs. I mean, if it is providing a fairly significant savings, are we going to look at converting other ones in the city, or are you just going to wait, and paying for it ourselves, or are we just going to wait for grants? I mean, if we're saving quite a bit of money, it might be something we want to look at.
Yeah, it's definitely something we'd want to look at because what's been done to date hasn't been the proposed grant work. That's just kind of been going as lights go out. Mark and his streets team have been replacing them with LEDs. So the grant money, I believe Ross just sat in a meeting last week saying that the federal funding has finally been approved, so we should be able to start that project. I believe that was anticipated to be complete within the next 5 years. We're hoping to do it within a year.
Tim, elaborate, on Fire Station 2. I'm very troubled. It's right next to where I work. I went by it every day when it was construction. I was watching, almost every step of the process, and we didn't skimp on that facility by any means. What were these failures that occurred?
Like the three big ones that we felt kind of put us over our budget was one, the solar panels, the inverter replacement, which was a citywide issue, and just with Fire Station 2, that cost alone was $4,300. The second one was with the heat pump. The repair and software upgrade was about $1,500. And then lastly, smoke detectors replacement was due to them being faulty, which was about $1,300. So that
Fire Station, we have faulty smoke detectors.
Faulty smoke detectors, not a good idea.
No? Okay, thank you.
At least the fire department's nearby.
Yeah. Then one last question, I'm sorry. So when we were talking about the maintenance that the TID was paying for, what made it TID eligible?
just the proximity of the improvements fell within the limits of the TID.
Okay. All right. Any further questions on this?
There was no warranty on any of that stuff, because it doesn't sound like that
For the fire
facility's
station?
that old, that faulty smoke detectors by now, maybe there's a warranty on it?
If there was, our building maintenance would have went through it so that the warranty would have been passed.
Anything else? Okay. We'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 2824, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next announcements, our next Board of Public Works is Monday, February 19th. I'm going to be out of town. Alder Jetzer, maybe you can chair. I'll be calling in, but if you can chair that meeting, I'd appreciate it.
I will also be calling in.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. This time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just
Oh, go
before we
ahead.
do that, I got one question
Yeah,
for
go
you.
ahead.
Pepper Construction offered $5 million to save on this building, and it was thrown out. Why was that? For the police building. they had come up with ways to save $5 million, but the chief of police and everybody there didn't want nothing to do with that on the first meeting they had on it. But they came up with a way to save $5 million, and it was thrown out.
I wish Paul was still here.
Yeah, Paul would have to provide a response for
I'm
that.
sorry, I wish you would have raised that when we were having the discussion. I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
I don't. I mean, do you, Bill?
Well, I mean, at a couple of our council meetings, we were presented with at least 3 options, right? One of them was the 49.2, and then they said, well, we could not include the training bay, not include the, the renewable energy and the, energy efficiency aspects, and you could get it down to 45 or whatever. And then they said, well, we could go even further and reduce the square footage and use, lesser
Instead of having
quality
10-foot
construction
ceilings, they could have 8-foot
materials.
ceilings, stuff like that.
Yeah, well,
But the other thing was the outside of the building too. They could have saved $1 million on that.
I don't know, I don't, I wish Paul was here, we talked, as Bill mentioned, less quality material, then you're replacing the outside. Earlier, I'm sorry, I can't speak to this.
and I don't know how much say we have over the exterior. That's part of the the Fitchburg Center Group, the Promega-led group. Promega donated the land, and so they then exercise some amount of authority and, architectural review, yes, exactly. And especially with the exterior appearance.
Well, years ago,
and
Promega
materials.
gave us that land, we let it go back too, because we didn't develop it, the city. I remember that quite well, don't you, Dave?
I don't recall that, but we still have that spot over there.
Yeah, right over there.
It was, it had been parkland up until a year and a half ago or something, right?
Yeah. So outrageously expensive, but if we had to buy that land somewhere else, it would have been another, I don't know how many million, for the land. So I feel very fortunate that we, were able to get the land for nothing.
Although it is costing a couple million in excavation and, site prep. It's going to be somewhat expensive, the site prep, just because it's so uneven and there's elevation change and everything.
Yeah.
But I hope they don't go with the thermal heat, because that's never worked out over here. They had it at one time. You forgot about that.
No, I remember it. I remember. Well, those questions, why don't you reach out to Paul?
Huh?
Why don't you reach out to Paul about those? Like I say, he's
I think
the
I
best.
got his cell somewhere else.
I would talk to him.
Pardon?
I would talk to him and
Yeah.
answer your question. Okay. This time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move we adjourn.
Moved by Wilborn, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.